welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for our session number 5 with Jen Darling, Colorado Children's Hospital Foundation. Thank you so much for being here, Jen. We really appreciate you taking the time and to join us and tell us what's going on in your world and provide some guidance and thoughts about how to handle fundraising management and especially leading through crisis during this COVID pandemic we're experiencing. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone, please use the Q&A feature. You'll see that on the bottom. It might be on the bottom or the top, but it's right next to the chat. And you'll see the Q&A. If you can use that for comments and questions. We want to keep these webinars very interactive. We rely on your participation as audience members. This is something we all can learn from. We think of them as an ideation session where we all can connect and think about how to better fundraise during these times of uncertainty, these turbulent times. And so really appreciate your input. We want your questions. Please don't be shy. We're mostly fundraisers. We're not that shy. So I want to hear your questions and then what's going on in your world. So, as Jen is talking about what they're doing at Children's Hospital Foundation, if you can also let us know, if you're doing something different, if you've got something going on that, is working for you and relevant to our conversation today, please let us know. Please put that again in the Q&A. The other part of the Q&A is there's an upvote feature for those that are new. Please use the thumbs up if you see a question or comment you really like, and that will pop those up to the top, and that will help John curate all the questions. So we're first going to start with the agenda today. We'll have some questions for Jen. We'll spend about 20 minutes on those, and then we'll open it up to questions for the audience. So as you're hearing from Jen, please think of questions you have that you would like to understand further. I want to give a thank you to Colorado Nonprofit Association and the Association of Fundraising Professionals, the Colorado chapter. Thank you so much for being our partner in these webinars. It's been great. I would say I highly recommend that if you're not a member of Colorado Nonprofit Association or AFP Colorado, please consider joining. They're doing a lot of great things. They're actually doing a lot of great things for free right now, so there's a lot of free services. But the membership is a great place to learn, to grow, especially all of us in fundraising and in the nonprofit industry, and really, again, to just learn more and be involved in our community. So if that's it, again, use that Q&A feature. Try to stay away from the chat feature. We've got probably 100 on this call at the end of the day on this webinar. So unfortunately, we cannot help with tech issues. This will be recorded though, so keep that in mind. And we'll share the recording with, of course, all the attendees and everybody registered. And even those that registered and couldn't make it, we'll have a recording available. So we will get started. And I want to thank John, who's here with us, and he's always here with us. John Pepperdine, thank you for being here. You better be here. Patrick, thanks for being here. Patrick Gaines, Boys and Girls Clubs, thanks. And Kay Ta'aviyama is running our PowerPoint today. And thank you, Kay, for all your help. So let's get started. Jen.
Yes.
Can you tell us, everybody knows you, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself, some background, maybe something we don't know, and then a little bit about Children's Hospital Colorado Foundation?
Sure. Well, I'll keep that part brief, but I will say that I've been fundraising in this community since 1991. And so I've been doing this for quite a while and seen a lot. I have never seen a time period like we're in right now. I have been with Children's Hospital Colorado Foundation since 2008. And I've been in the role of president and CEO for the last 2 years or so. And before this, I was with Denver Art Museum for quite a while, and then with the Botanic Gardens, where I met the famous Matt Wasserman. We office shared in, I think, the year 2001, at least.
Yeah.
And let's see, with Denver Botanic Gardens and with Colorado School of Mines before that. So love this community, love being a member of it. And let's see, I have been sheltering in place since March 16th or so with my family and our dog, Black Lab. We are up at Horsetooth Reservoir, just west of Fort Collins at our place here. I am not in a sauna, so if it looks like I am, I'm actually just up in our loft.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I do have to, I've known Jen for years. I guess it has been since 2000. And Jen you were a mentor to me, I mean, that was my first nonprofit fundraising experience at the Denver Art Museum. And I came out of the bare knuckles world of politics, and you taught me so much about fundraising and philanthropy, and still do to this day. And I like to consider myself as your mentor, and how to deal with unruly, obstinate employees. I learned a lot.
Yeah, we could go off. That would be the happy hour segment later.
Right. Yeah, get the dirt.
Right.
All right. So, so what are you doing? I mean, today, just in terms of care and to get through all of this right now?
Well, it's interesting on that front. I feel like, in the initial stages of all of this, there was a lot of fear. One of the things we did yesterday, we had a full board meeting on Zoom, and we looked at what we called our COVID timeline, and it is shocking how quickly we've all had to pivot from just the early days in January of, there might be a virus in Wuhan, China, to all of a sudden it's in the US, to it's in Colorado, there are deaths in Colorado, we're all in shelter in place, you can't leave your home without a mask, etc. So we quickly escalated into a pretty scary place. And I feel like in the early days of that, we at Children's put some things in place that served us well, and including 5 different task forces that we defined on March 9th. One was staffing. What were we doing to keep our employees safe? At the time, we were still working in our offices. And that crew now is looking also at compensation and policies and whatnot. We have a second task force on messaging. How are we talking about all of this? How are we pivoting from messages that we thought would be relevant when we planned out our year to now talking about our COVID relief and our hospital response? And then a third task force on events, because we've had to quickly make some decisions on our events. And there's a fourth task force on revenue generation. How are we thoughtful about all of this? How are we sensitive? How are we also appropriately aggressive? And then fifth is finance. We had an executive committee meeting on March 12th with our board, where we asked if our original 2020 budget and plan could be not only shelved, but literally kind of thrown away, because there was just no way we were going to hit our revenue numbers. We knew then the world was changing real quickly. And so we had to pivot, and I'll talk a little bit more about all of that. But basically we all started remote work effective March 16th or so. And so, in some ways we're working super hard, but to answer your question, Matt, I think it's kind of nice to be having dinner with the family and not doing night events all the time, and not wearing a ball gown for a gala or whatever. And so there's some silver lining to this time. We're not commuting, we're not in our cars, we're with our family and with our dogs, and hopefully also getting outside every day.
Yeah, absolutely. There is that bit of silver lining among all this, that where you can really connect with their family and everything else. So what are you seeing in terms of, or hearing in terms of the fundraising environment right now? I mean, what's the outlook in terms of giving, just on a national scale? Are you hearing data points and things like that can help us, plan and think about the future?
Sure. Yeah, so I thought I would share a little data that I've been hearing from Grenzenbach, Lear and Associates out of Chicago, as well as the Woodmark Group, which is a group of children's hospitals from across North America, so Canadian and American independent freestanding children's hospitals. And I would say that, first of all, some data from GGNA. They're doing a survey, I think it's weekly, might be every 2 weeks or so, and sharing their information. 2/3 of national nonprofits expect this crisis to have a high negative impact, which is the highest rating on their impact scale. High negative impact on their fundraising, particularly over the next 90 days. I'm a little surprised that isn't more than 2/3. I think unless you're living under a rock, this thing is having an impact. 1/3 of those nonprofits have postponed or canceled key fundraising events. Only 12% of those nonprofits believe they will conduct their in-person events this fall. What those two stats really lead to is virtual engagement. And I think we are all trying to move fast and furiously toward what we in our office call creative ingenuity, and defining how best to do a virtual event to theoretically raise somewhere close to what we would have raised if we were doing our more traditional events. And then just a couple more stats, 25% of these nonprofits have postponed or canceled donor visits and conversations, even virtual visits, which I find a little shocking. And we'll talk, I think, about the importance of not becoming paralyzed with fear. We need to be in action and we need to be out there fundraising. That's our responsibility really to the community and to the missions that we serve. 1/3 of those nonprofits have canceled solicitations. I would say that at Children's, we have not canceled solicitations, we've just reworked them. And I think that we all have to be smart and sensitive to this. We certainly cannot be blind to the fact that over 1 in 7 people have lost their jobs in just a handful of weeks. And then another stat was 53% are reporting budget cuts or at least budget control measures. I'm a little surprised there that isn't a higher statistic as well. Maybe they just haven't done their budgeting. And then I would say overall, in conversations I've been having with my colleagues representing children's hospitals, revenue is down 30 to 35% pretty much across the board. And we'll see if we can hold there or if it's going to get worse.
It's stark. That's a lot. Hey, folks, I just want to, there's a lot of new people who jumped on since our last housekeeping announcement. Please use the Q&A feature for questions and please ask questions. There's a lot of you here. We only have one question there. Keep them coming. We want to hear from you and also let us know what you're doing as we talk about these subjects. Please chime in. You'll see somebody ask a question. You can add a little bit to it. And then the upvote feature, hit that upvote if you like a question or comment that really resonates with you and you want us to answer. Hit that up, it's a thumbs up, and I'll bring those questions to the top. And John will curate those questions and we'll get to your questions around 12:30 or so. But as you hear things, please, we want participation. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jen. And we go to the next slide, Kay. So you started to get in this and you called it creative, what was it, ingenuity?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's dig a little deeper. What is the foundation doing to respond to the crisis? How have you pivoted, changed that strategy?
Yeah, so those are some fun slides right there, or images there from a lot of what we're doing. I would say that one of the first things we did was work with our hospital leadership and define how we would use philanthropy to offset what we were doing to address the COVID crisis. And we then packaged those fundraising needs and got that out pretty quickly to really all of our donors at various levels. And we have had a very strong major gift response. And we've had several people come forward with six-figure gifts that we've then also used to leverage as matching opportunities to inspire lower end gifts, which certainly add up and are fantastic. In fact, our broad grassroots efforts seem to be going really well, and we're messaging things like what you're seeing here around supporting our frontline caregivers. We're in a unique situation where within this epidemic or crisis, we are mission relevant, and I would say actually almost all nonprofits are, whether you're dealing with homelessness or food or caring for kids, et cetera. It's important that we message the impact that our nonprofits and our organizations are having in the community. So Children's has been going strong in social media and also our online messaging, crowdfunding, et cetera. And we've been alternating our messages between opportunities for support and thank you. I think it's important to do both. We are certainly grateful. We have seen just amazing outpouring of support. Our average gift values or dollar amounts are down. They're lower average than what we traditionally see, but the volume is up. So those smaller gifts are adding up, and we're grateful. We're also seeing a high number of new donors and a high number of what we call repeat donors, which are people who are responding to additional solicitations in short periods of time. And then I'm guessing a lot of you are seeing as well, we've had high email open rates, and I need to knock on wood, but we've had a 0% unsubscribe rate. So our messaging is resonating and people are reading it, and they're so far not unsubscribing. Knock on wood behind me. I just think the pandemic is new, but we know that in a crisis, grassroots fundraising is really important. And I also think that community engagement is part of healing and activating and reactivating. And so how can nonprofits play a role in engaging and activating our communities? We're doing a ton of highly personal outreach. We are calling our donors to say thank you. People are actually home and picking up their phones and having conversations with us. We called everybody who has provided for us through their wills and their estates on a simple level to make sure they're okay, but also to find out, is there anything we can do for you? Are there questions we can answer? Can we share what Children's is doing? And really engaging in conversations around that. We're also taking time to do data entry. And Matt and I were talking about this a while ago. How many times have all of us at some point said like, I would be all up to date on my data entry if only I had time. Well, guess what, people? We all have time. And so, it's important to take time for those core fundamentals of what we do. And actually, the data is going to be hopefully really useful in informing how we best move forward. As an example, if we are tracking who we connect with on the phone and then later discern that people that we are able to talk to by phone turn around and make a second gift faster, or they make a gift at a higher dollar amount, statistically more so than people we haven't connected with or personally thanked, then let's put a lot more effort into the personal thank yous. So really studying donor behavior is something that is going to be important. And this is where also we can motivate ourselves to be taking the time to do that data entry. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great time for contact reports. those dreaded contact reports and data hygiene. But
No.
also loved how you did that personal outreach. That's tremendous. And you had, I mean, everybody says children's courses on the front lines of this. But as you said, so you had that message and you had those specific areas to fund, which your stakeholders stepped up and really came to the rescue, so to speak. But I think also you said, every nonprofit is on the front lines here. We're all serving some place and helping people in some way. I think everyone in our audience, to think about how your organization does impact our community, whether arts, whether, food bank to arts to what have you, just right there.
Exactly, Matt. And on that point, I think the worst thing any one of us could do right now is just stand still and wait for our old normal to return, because that is not going to happen. We've got to be agile. We've got to be smart. We've got to pivot, and we've got to accept that this is our new reality. And so how can we be creative, and how can we still connect with our community, show the impact of philanthropy, and inspire more?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So with that next question. So let's get into leading through crisis. You have a big team, Jen, and so you're a leader, but everyone's a leader, especially in crisis. What's your guidance and advice just in leading through this crisis, and how are you doing it?
Well, so that's a great question. First of all, I think that, again, as I said, I've been fundraising in this town for a long time. Kind of scary that I'll be approaching my 30th year pretty soon. And I've never seen anything like this. As a leader, you often have a 3-year or a 5-year plan, and you can make decisions that factor in looking backwards in terms of where have we been, what have we learned from that, and then inform where are we going. And you can usually see certainly a 1-year horizon, often a 3-year horizon, and ideally a 5-year horizon. I feel like right now our horizons are incredibly short. And certainly in March, mid-March, late March, there were days where our horizons felt like they were 24 hours, and that was it. We didn't know what 48 hours was going to bring. And I think as leaders, we need to be soaking up as much information as we can to stay informed, but also to stay grounded and to try to elongate these horizons as much as we can. I feel like right now my horizon that I'm working with is about 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. We're guessing and doing planning for 6 months out or even next year, but we're kind of doing it knowing full well our foundation is going to be shifting over and over, and we've got to keep pivoting and be flexible. So that would be one piece, is just as leaders stay agile. There's clearly no playbook for this. You cannot go Google, how do I lead during pandemic and what does fundraising look like this? You just have to rely on experience, gut instinct, reaching out to others, finding your mentors, testing your own hypotheses. We're doing a ton of scenario planning so that we can pivot into the right scenario as information evolves. None of us have a crystal ball. So I think you also as a leader have to be transparent about that and not pretend that you have everything figured out, that you have to be a little bit vulnerable and say, you know what, I'm doing the very best I can with the information that I have. Here's what I believe we need to do now. Tomorrow might be a little bit different, but we're not going to be paralyzed by fear, as I said earlier, and we've got to keep moving. I think in the early days, this felt like a sprint. I think now it's clearly a marathon. It might even be one of those ultra marathons where this is it. We're here and we're in this environment for the long haul. And so how are we putting strategies in play that are best for our organizations while also keeping ourselves as leaders healthy, energized, smart, engaged, and all of that.
So Jen, I mean, it's really turbulent times. So much is going on. I think you said it, it's what's best for your organization. Is that the place you stay grounded in to make decisions?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. My North Star and our organization's North Star is what is best for Children's Hospital Colorado and what is best for Children's Hospital Colorado Foundation. The hospital's been around for well over 110 years. The foundation's been around for 41 years. I don't want either to fail on my watch. And so we have to keep that question of what is best for the foundation top of mind. Sometimes that can mean that there are hard decisions that have to be made in the interest of doing what is best and what is right.
Right. Great. All right, Kay, you can go to the next slide. You did talk about this, some of these, the long and short-term objectives. And you answered the question, do you wait things to go back to normal or adapt to this ever-changing environment? Can you just put a little more on that? Like why not wait? And why adapt now and be aggressive, in some ways be aggressive and really get out there.
Yeah, I think the sooner we can acknowledge that our worlds are forever changed, the better, because we do need to be moving, and we need to be moving in a smart way. But with any crisis, whether it's a personal crisis like a divorce or cancer or the loss of a loved one or whatever it is, it's real smart to stop and ask yourself, whoa, I just went through this. Why? What did I learn? What should I change moving forward? What should I retain that I'm now doing today that I should probably be doing in the future as well? And absolutely evaluating how we have to shift. I think with our organizations, we have to look at what is the impact of all of this on our core business practices. On a simple level, here we are doing a virtual meeting. We had one of our best attended board meetings yesterday because everybody was there virtually. They weren't having to commute out to the Anschutz Medical Campus. And so how do we, moving forward, I know we all want that human contact again. We want to actually sit in a room together, whether or not we have 6 feet of personal space around us or a little less, who knows. But certainly we will be incorporating technology moving forward. Yep. The other piece we're looking at is at Children's, we're heavily dependent on events. And as we said, we're going to be pivoting. So what does that look like? And what does that mean? We're not going to walk away from our events. We love gathering, and we love the emotional momentum that an event can bring, but how can we bring those same feelings and those strengths of our events and all of our programming forward in new and innovative ways?
Good, great. Yeah, it's so important. How can you create that? And we're actually going to have a session coming up on events on May, I think it's May 8th, but we'll get to that later. So just a reminder, everybody, keep the questions coming. We've got some great questions. Really appreciate your input. So questions and comments, and if you can put those in the Q&A, and then again, don't forget the upvote so you can vote on the questions and comments you like best. And we also want to hear from you and all the great things that you're doing in this time of crisis. All right, Kay, I think we have one more question here about planning. So Jen, you talked about planning already. Just real briefly, talk about that. How are you going through it? It's obviously probably not a year-long plan or a 3-year-long plan anymore.
No, I know. Yeah. We, so in terms of planning, first of all, I mentioned those 5 task forces. They are meeting regularly and reporting out. We're also, as a leadership team, we used to be doing, in March, we were doing daily huddles. Now they're every other day, but we are staying in lockstep. Our huddles are only 30 minutes, so they're real quick, kind of information sharing, allowing each of us to be in lockstep and to pivot as we need to. In terms of our longer term planning, we did, as I said, ask our board if we could kind of table our original 2020 plans. I shared yesterday with our board where we are right now. It's very important to us to keep our board on the same page as us. I've been talking with our board chair every couple of days and making sure that he and I share the same vision and philosophy with each of our important topics. We will be revising our 2020 budget, and we're bringing that to our board executive committee in May, and then we'll be bringing it to our full board in June to vote on it, which is weird because it's mid-year, but these are unprecedented times. So, that's what we'll be doing. And then we will be starting our 2021 planning like we normally do in August, September, October. And we'll have to see where that all goes. I think in the very short term, we're planning right now how to reactivate our offices. We've been remote, and certainly people have been able to come to our offices or work in the offices, but it's only been 1 or 2 people a day, and by their own choosing. And what's it going to look like? How do we keep people safe? And how do we come back together, physically together again? So we are looking real closely at that. And I think I mentioned the importance of taking time also to philosophically learn and question, where do we go from here? How should we be adapting to these new realities moving forward? So yeah, again, planning is for the next hour and month. And year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for all that, Jen. That was really helpful and great guidance. And I'm going to turn it over to John, who is going to go to our audience. And again, we got some great questions, and please keep them coming. And so, John, take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we've got some great questions. I'll start off with John O'Donnell. His question is anyone planning a virtual fundraising event, bidding, pledging, and live auctions? And then real quick note, Lori follows up with, and thank you, Laura, for joining us, Lori Ropa of ARC. She asks that everybody share their links to their events so we can kind of use collective knowledge. Lori, on that note, I think we'll gather those for our May 8th webinar on Friday noon, where we'll talk about virtual events. But anyway, back to the question. Matt, I don't know if you want to jump into it, Patrick or Jen. Who wants to take that first?
Yeah, I can quickly speak to what Soul Child Development Center has. They switched their annual luncheon, which is in person, to a virtual event, and it was supposed to take place in late April. So now that they have a virtual event, the virtual event gave a little more runway for the event and to extend the time. And so they've been running the event the last month and doing a lot of things to really build up to that event day, and have a match in place, and are using a third-party platform to run that event from. And it's kind of like a micro campaign or a crowdfunding event, leading and then doing some videos and a lot of testimonials and a lot of stories. But it's working out very well for them. They're really doing a great job, and I can say that. Their audience, their stakeholders, the people that are really close to them and have always given this event are stepping up and giving. And it's really heartening to see.
Patrick, do you have anything to add?
Just that when I draw back to my, 150 years ago when I got into fundraising, I was having my very first, funnels and pyramids drawn for me about, who's at the top of the pyramid, who's in the middle of the pyramid, who's that founding base of your pyramid. From day one, I was taught that events were not about fundraising. And folks, I believe that to this day. Fundraising is one of the things that we yield from events. But golly, I know this is true for Jen Darling, and it's certainly true for the Boys and Girls Clubs. The people that are the most generous and that really are the lifeblood of our organization are not served directly through our organization. In fact, we don't want them to be. And so our events are about a gathering of people. So yeah, we are worried about and we're laboring over that fundraising line item that comes out of the event. But I think our energy right now is focused on how do we bring those people together, whether it's 50, 500, or 5,000, whatever the size of your organization. Maybe think about that first, about how to respond appropriately and in the appropriate time to bring that body of people together in a meaningful way around your mission. We're clever. The fundraising, I think, will sort itself out.
Yeah.
Jen, you want to add?
Yeah, I think, well, we had a big gala in Colorado Springs that was originally planned for April 17th, and we debated delaying it. We debated making it all virtual, doing our auction virtual, et cetera. Because of the timing and everything, what we did was just, we sent out a video. We did a very heartfelt video on that day, April 17th, and we, in advance, connected with every sponsor, every table buyer, every ticket buyer, et cetera, to say that we would not, be doing the event together in person, but we asked that they please still give and honor their original pledge to the event, and that we would repurpose it, which was the original purpose actually, to support our children's hospital in Colorado Springs. And 85% or so of all of the donors and ticket buyers, et cetera, said that we could keep their dollars and keep with our original intent and impact of supporting the Springs community. The 15 or so percent who wanted us, who either could not fulfill their pledge or in a couple cases asked us to reimburse, we honored that. The reason being is that their own businesses or their own financial situation had gone so south that they just were unable to still support us financially. We get it, and we want to be their partner for the long haul. We know they're going to recover in some way, hopefully, in the future. So no hard feelings in the least, just reinforcing the partnership and our gratitude. So yeah, we're looking at virtual options for sure for a lot of our events. And to Patrick's point, as well, they have to, however we do this, it has to be impactful. And I think that still having that authentic engagement that is creative and personal and heartfelt is going to be the key.
Great. Okay, the next question, Peter Piccolo asked, it would be of help to know more details about the impact of fundraising by category, individual, corporate, and foundation. I can say, for one, I haven't seen anything yet. It's pretty early, but I don't know, Jen, you want to jump into that? You guys might have some data, or at least anecdotally, or some details.
Yeah, we've been analyzing all of our kind of revenue lines, and I will say that in terms of individuals, our principal gift conversations have come to a standstill. Those are our big transformational gift conversations. We've been talking with all of those people, but we've mutually agreed to just kind of put those on hold for a bit. Obviously, if there was a donor who still wanted to make a huge gift, we would talk, but that's just not a reality right now. Same with our kind of 7-figure gifts, et cetera. We are having some success in the major gift arena, so that's nice. And then keep going down. Our annual gift support is high right now. As I said, average gift amount is low, but number of donors is up. People are wanting to do what they can. We're seeing a lot through our online giving. In the corporate arena, our gifts are down right now, but we've had some amazing corporate engagement. We've had generous gifts in kind, and we've had a few major gifts come in from our corporate partners, but they're, for for the most part, smaller amounts than they traditionally would give. Other corporate partners are saying, we want to still work with you, we want to still support you, but let's put it on pause for a month or 2 months or a little more, we'll see. And then in the foundation, the community foundation support arena, that's tough. A lot of those gifts are going to the statewide efforts, and I feel like they're kind of all figuring out how best to maximize their philanthropy. Donor advised funds are a really great way to be giving right now. So we're talking with a lot of our donor advised fund donors as well. And certainly estate gifts, future documented expectancies are something that we're talking with people about as well.
Great. Patrick, what are you seeing at Boys and Girls Club?
Our statistics really mirror exactly what Jen reported. And so I will simply say ditto on that point. And the only thing I'll add is that this is, I think, an opportune time around foundations first, maybe corporations second, and then individuals third, to reach out to your natural partners. And I mean your natural partners, not necessarily from a funding only standpoint, but your natural partners from a program delivery standpoint. We're finding some of the larger foundations in Denver and around the state, and a few national foundations are reaching out to the Boys and Girls Clubs and saying, we need to create a more community-wide response to this, because as Jen pointed out 20 minutes ago, unlike 9/11, unlike 08, those were episodic, and there was sort of a quick spike and then a long drawn out thing. Well, this thing is still spiking and we don't know when it's going to spike. So I think this is a good time to reach out to natural partners. I think a little bit of competition in the nonprofit world is always good, but this is maybe a time to lower those competitive edges a little bit and look for opportunities for cross collaboration, and really be honest with funders to say, look, this is our wheelhouse. This isn't. We think we can work more effectively with these partners. I feel right now there's a strong appetite among corporations and foundations for that, leading with that spirit of collaboration and partnership.
And Matt, do you have anything to add? We'll go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what I've heard. Foundations, right now it's foundation funding, and I think the foundations in Colorado are being very, very generous right now. They are giving to some big funds, which are providing pools of money. And that's a great place to look at. COVID Relief Fund of Colorado. There's many others. There's a Pikes Peak Fund. There's funds all over the state. So, the foundations are being very generous. If the markets continue to decline, it's going to get a lot tougher for foundations. So I would go to foundations now and find those that are your natural partners and have supported you or are moving into the area that you impact. Corporations, I'm seeing some corporations really step up. It's really impressive, and I'm really heartened by it. But on the other hand, if the market gets tougher, it's going to get tough. Corporate giving is going to get tougher. But there are those industries that are doing very well. One is hosting us right now. I would look at those corporations and see how their foundations are evolving or their corporate giving is evolving. And individuals, I think it's all over the place. And, donor advised funds we talked about, state giving, I think are all important. I think looking at the CARES Act is allowing, of course, for 100% tax deduction. I can see that changing corporate giving. And then there's some things, Russell James, people are probably familiar, some of you are familiar with Russell James at Texas Tech. He had a great blog on the CARES Act and charitable gift annuities and utilizing charitable gift annuities and the tax benefit through the CARES Act. So that could also help with individual giving at some level.
Okay. I really want to get to this next question. Lori Ropa brings it up, and I think it's a great one. We hear it every week. It is the classic question. It's twofold, really. What if you're not an organization that's not necessarily on the front line, providing healthcare or immediate social services, and maybe you do other things, or by virtue of your constituency? The second part of that, and I think is absolutely vital, and again comes up every week, when does it become appropriate, not tone deaf, to start to ask again? So I mixed it up last time. Jen, do you want to kick this off?
Yeah, so I think in terms of frontline, I think it's all in how you define that, because if your organization held value to the community on February 1st, I would imagine it still holds value to the community today, April 24th. It's about articulating that value. And I mean, you got to believe in it to help your supporters believe in it. And kind of goes back to that. I always cite Ron Schiller's book, Belief and Confidence, because it is our responsibility to legitimately and authentically exude belief and confidence in our organizations, because that our funders, our benefactors want to know that they are giving to something that is worthy. And so I think I just would define frontline pretty broadly. In terms of when is it right to go back and start asking, I would be asking now. And we're having those conversations. We've been having them. And the trick is to be really empathetic, very, very thoughtful, cautious, and honest. And so one of the things that I've been kind of coaching our team on is start, take a very honest approach and say, would this be an okay time to have a conversation around the importance of philanthropy right now? Or is that something that you just can't hear for a little while? And could I then just kind of update you on some of the things that we're doing? But I think that being kind but direct is the best approach right now.
Patrick or Matt, do you want to jump in?
Well, Jen, there's a reason we all look up to you so much. That answer was so beautiful. Thank you. I don't think it could be said better by anybody. So I hope we were recording that. Could not agree more that, Jen, you just represented our profession so eloquently there. And so, of course, there is an appropriate time to mourn and to experience grief. And I think we're all beyond that now, because we've gotten past the shock phase. And so I think that we are absolutely also asking, and I'll close with this, and I know I've said this during the last 4 weeks in this forum, think about your donors, your friends, your board members, your advisory board members, your membership, your subscribers, whatever you call them, they're your family. And don't hesitate to reach out and just start the conversation with, how are you doing? Where are you getting your groceries? How are your kids holding up? How are your grandkids holding up? We're in this as a community. You'll get to the mission of your organization eventually. Don't lead off with that. Reach out, take care of your family, offer your support, anything we can be doing for you. Our board chair, we're similar, Jen, we've had 100% board participation, so we're really wondering if that's the new way to meet. But right. Our board chair has been starting and ending the meeting with, does anybody need anything? And it's so touching. So just don't forget to be human. Human first, family first. The mission will come. That's your natural connection. The mission will follow. But please do not hesitate to be out there asking right now. This is not an inappropriate time, and I think in anyone's opinion on this panel.
Well said,
Right.
Pat.
Yep. Right.
Matt, anything to add?
Nothing to add. Those were 2 mic drop comments, and I cannot add. They were both beautifully stated.
Well, I want to get to, we have about 5-8 minutes left, and I want to get to a question Barbara Abbey has, and I think it's a good one because collectively we've got 100 years of fundraising at least among us. How does this compare to the downturn of 2008, 9/11? And I've been in fundraising long enough, the tech drop in early 2000. I think, Patrick, you said something very interesting. It is not this episodic thing. And I agree completely with Jen. This feels very different. And so, that's just my 2 cents. But I'd love to have anyone jump in on how our current status compares to those other moments in fundraising.
Patrick, you're muted.
I thank you. I'll be brief because I want to hear you. I simply think it's this, and I think this whole panel was fundraising, and I know a lot of participants were too in 9/11 and 08. 9/11 was like Pearl Harbor in that it was immediately on our shores, but then instantly offshore, and so it very quickly became an over there problem. In 2008, it was a betrayal of a very narrow but high impacting segment of our economy, the banking system. Again, there was someone to blame and point the blame at and get angry at. In this case, there is no enemy. And there doesn't seem to be any end. And so it's not a lack of trust in our economy, and it's not an attack from a foreign human invader in any case. So I think what we are finding as we move into the stabilization phase of this crisis is that it is creating a stronger sense of community. Now, is there some scarcity around that? Probably. And we're going to realize that in the coming weeks, months, and years ahead. But I feel like it's bringing together a stronger sense of community, and we're trying to figure out how to, Jen said the right word, how to appropriately and authentically seize that moment without being at all exploitive. And that's a tricky line to walk.
Yep, well said. I think, I've been kind of reflecting on wow, what did the world feel like after Pearl Harbor when Americans were attacked on our shore? I know what the world felt like after Columbine and after 9/11. And I think this is this generation's, whatever you want to call it, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, et cetera. I'm watching how it's hitting my kids. I'm watching how it's hitting me and our organization, et cetera. It has absolutely kind of tried to tear away the fabric of our society, and yet we're all trying to kind of quickly rethread that fabric as well and hang on to our most important core values. Typically in recessions like in 2008, et cetera, philanthropy was impacted, but it rebounded pretty quickly. It was more about just reinstilling a philanthropist's perception, whether it's someone who gives $100 or $100 million, but their own perception that they could part with that money and that they would still be okay by their definition of okay. And with this one, I will say it scares me more. I mean, this is global. This is cross industry. I think here in Denver, we have some pretty big concerns with the oil and gas industry being impacted in the way that it has. I mean, it's scary that that oil was at a negative value, that you pay more for a thing of water than you do for oil these days, and that's scary. I think Denver has diversified its industry since I moved here in '91, but we're still pretty reliant philanthropically on the generosity of the oil and gas industry. I think when we look around at the leaders in that community, they serve on boards. Their names are all over our culturals and our hallways and our schools, et cetera, because they are so incredibly generous. And so we have to be looking at who is going to step into those philanthropic shoes and help our community rebuild. I do think there are some people making money out there today. And so how can we help them understand the role that they need to now play in stepping forward and being the angels to our community that the Rockefellers and the Carnegie Mellons, et cetera, were many years ago when we went through the Great Depression and equal hardship. So I don't know, it's an interesting time, and I think it's different than 9/11.
Matt, you have anything to add?
No, there's another question. Let's get to that, and I'll keep this rolling because Patrick and Jen, again, covered it great.
Okay, great. I would say the next question is a really good one from, Wendy. And I think this is more just short term, asking about May 5th. I don't know if you've heard or not, but there is Giving Tuesday. The powers that be, the people that organize Giving Tuesday that traditionally happens after Thanksgiving, have designated May 5th. I haven't seen too many nonprofits getting involved in that. Again, it's entirely possible. I understand the motivation, and I don't think it's a bad idea, but just a quick question to the panel. Is anybody hearing about organizing around May 5th as a Giving Tuesday day?
Yeah, I'm hearing a little bit. I know a couple of organizations that are going to probably attempt a May 5th Giving Day. It's a very short window, very short timeline. I would say if you haven't started yet, it's it'll be difficult to get that off the ground. A couple of the organizations are going to incorporate Giving Tuesday into they've got a campaign going on right now, or a virtual event going on right now, so they'll incorporate it. I'm not aware of First Bank or Colorado Gives Day. I don't know if there's anybody on this webinar from Community First Foundation. They might be able to lend a little more if they're involved. But that's it. I haven't heard a whole lot. I know Black Bot is very involved, so they might be, again, very involved in this as well, because they're such a partner in the Giving Tuesday in November.
Yeah, and Classy too, and you'll hear some of those. Yeah. Jen, have you heard?
We're so I'm a little embarrassed to say, because I know there are people on our foundation team that are doing some promotion of it, but I think we're incorporating it into our Nurses Week messaging and some other initiatives that we're doing, and we're not ignoring it, so we'll be incorporating it, but it's not a big focus of ours.
Yeah. Patrick, our Boys and Girls Club participating?
We're not, and I'll say the same thing. It's not that we're ignoring it. We just had so many other things queued up in the pipeline, we just couldn't respond.
Yeah. So I'm going to take the liberty of closing us up a bit by also addressing this. I think it's all good. I don't think there's a problem with it. I think what I'm sensing, though, from our clients, the people we're talking to and doing these weeklies, is that everybody's doing their best to stay connected with donors. I do feel like we're moving into the mode of, how do we get into recovery mode? How do we plan? And that's not to say that we're going to hit recovery mode on X date, but how do we start looking at the fall and things like that? And so I think whatever you do to connect with your donors, whether it's a Giving Tuesday on May 5th or a Nurses Week, maybe a virtual pinning ceremony or something like that, Patrick, what you're doing, I think it all helps. It all raises donor awareness. Just what's the capacity of your organization. And so anyway, I will close with, first of all, thanking Jen. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Patrick, again.
Thank you very
much.
And
even thank you, Matt. You bet.
Never.
And then also I want to remind everybody that May 5th, we are actually going to have a webinar on events.
May 8th.
Oh, I'm sorry. May 8th, Friday. We're skipping next week. So yeah. Matt and I are taking a little, and Matt, Kay, and Patrick and I are taking
a vacation.
We do need a vacation. You guys probably need a vacation from us. But May 8th, Friday, noon to 1, we're going to be talking events. And then May 22nd, we're developing, going to have a webinar on developing the plan for next year with Melissa Baldwin, a Vice Chancellor of Advancement for CU Denver. And please let us know what you think of these webinars. We're always looking to improve. We're doing the best we can, but we always want to get better. And then finally, the next slide, Kay, if you don't mind, is AFP. We want to let you know what they're up to. We should have their next coffees. Here we go. Virtual happy hour, Wednesday, May 6th, 4:30. And then they're having a webinar, May 15th at 12. Win your donor's affection with a strategy that matters. So join those, learn as much as you can. And I would also encourage you to join not just AFP, but Colorado Nonprofit Association or other co-sponsor. But again, I want to thank you, Jen, Patrick, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Happy to participate. Thank you for your great work, and thank you, AFP and Colorado Nonprofit Association. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Thanks so much. Everybody have a great weekend. Relax, stay safe, be healthy out there. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.